Hello, everybody. This is Megan,
And this is Alana.
and welcome to Tea Time Crimes. Reverted back to your old intro there.
Can't help it.
Really went for it. Good morning.
It's what the fans want.
Yeah, probably it is, honestly. You had an interesting morning. For somebody who has a rational fear of chamber pots, you really had a lot going on around that this morning.
Yeah. There was just a lot of animal excrement out both. Excrement is only out of one end, isn't that right? What would be a word ends. For both?
Gross.
Gross. That's a good one. Yeah, it's been a morning, and my stupid cough has just kept me up all night. I tried to sleep on the couch so I wouldn't wake up Chris, and then, anyways, we're here. We're ready. We have a new setup. Look at me. I have a little clampy arm. Not personally, but this. Yeah.
Yeah, can you guys see that? She has a new mic stand, and hopefully...
Yeah, I can move it. I can sit back in my chair.
No, I was actually going to say, stop sitting back. You need to have your face in the mic because
I got to move it back with me.
Oh, God.
I'm going to get used to it. It's going to be peak podcasting.
Gosh, just stay right there. Okay. Yeah, don't move. Oh, cool. So how are you feeling better other than being up all night with a cough?
Yeah.
Alana doesn't like to admit when she's sick. She will deny it for the first 5 days of her sickness, then say she is sick, and then be better by day 7. That's usually how she rolls.
Yeah, I get over colds really quick, but I like
she
to
doesn't, but she pretends that she does.
Let's compare the two of us. How long have you had yours? How long have I had mine?
Well, you can't compare it to me. I'm Typhoid Megan. You can't compare it to me, but like a normal human being.
Typhoid Megan.
A normal human being gets the same amount.
I don't know.
As you.
I like to stay positive. I've
well, maybe that's the problem. I like to be down in the basement just crying.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the difference.
My immune system has gotten better. I mean, since COVID, which is kind of funny. Yeah, it's just funny because I was like, oh, I'm so much. My immune system's amazing, and then I got sick. So it's my fault for saying that.
Can we get a quick animal update? You still have Bridge Kitty.
Yeah.
He's about to celebrate like his 10th birthday with you.
No.
And then, but has the squirrel been released?
Yeah, the squirrel's long gone. I mean, even before the Mary Kay episode. Yeah, she Peanut is what we called her. Mm-hmm. We put her in a pre-release cage backed with the squirrel rescue. So it's like a cage outside.
Okay.
And so she can get used to the outdoors and stuff. And she
so the squirrel
that
rescue
whole cold patch. Yeah.
Has her.
Yes. And they're going to try to release her this week. So Chris went and said bye and gave her some nuts.
What if she just finds her way back to your yard?
This place is far away.
Okay. Well, I've seen Homeward Bound. So.
Oh, great movie.
Great movie. Now, what about the iguana?
Oh, long gone as well, before the squirrel.
Who claimed it?
One of Chris's rescue friends is a big, she had iguanas growing up, and she had this whole reptile room. Like, it was the perfect setup. She knew how to deal with it, because apparently they're really hard pets to take care of.
Really?
So,
how come?
Yeah, because they're dinosaurs, I guess. I don't know. I think they're just temperamental. But yeah, so we're down to runners. One foster.
Well,
yeah.
You just have it. You have another cat, and you should just accept it.
We have a foster.
You have a third cat, and you should welcome him to the house and just make it official. We'll see. We'll see. Okay. Hop us into your tea review, madam.
Okay. So this is actually a tea that you got me for my birthday, but we've had so many teas lined up that because of the holidays and stuff.
God forbid we go out of order. Yeah.
I mean, we can't have a winter tea in September, so.
Obviously. What do you got?
So you found the perfect tea for me because it is a chai tea or a chai from New Zealand. So it's a New Zealand tea brand that I've never heard of before called Zealong, which, clever wordplay there.
And that's perfect for you because...
Oh, right. Not everybody knows my entire history. My mom is from New Zealand and I am half Kiwi, dual citizen, etc. That's why I say some words like basil weird.
What do you call that? Like you're a what? Like I would say, oh, she's Australian. What are you? You're New Zealand?
Kiwi.
You just say Kiwi? No one says New Zealander or anything?
Yeah, people say that too. New Zealander, Kiwi, whatever.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the actual tea. But I thought it was just a really cool niche that you found. So thank you. So Zealong. No, calm down. We're getting into the French episode later. Zealong's own chai. This gusty chai and smoky char mingles with our Zealong black tea to evolve and evoke exotic flavors of faraway places. That's a good description.
Gusty?
Nope. Did I say that? Gutsy?
Oh, that makes more sense. I was thinking I've never heard a tea described as windy before, and I was super excited to see how they accomplished it. But gutsy makes more sense.
Yes. Yeah. Gutsy chai and smoky char. That was pretty funny. Whoa, watch it fly away. I put a dash of milk, just like a
yeah, obviously
a little bit.
Yep.
Not a normal amount for my normal tea because a chai wants a little less.
Does it?
Ready? Mm-hmm. It does.
Go.
Smells like chai. My senses are a little diminished from my after effects. Interesting. There's like a sweet note.
It's the gust.
Like almost vanilla. It's a gust of vanilla. Okay. Okay. It's a very mellow chai, so it's like you gracefully get onto a long pole floaty on your back and you
pole floaty? Do you mean pool?
A pool floaty.
Oh,
a pool floaty.
You said pole.
And you glide onto your back and it's just really relaxing.
Ooh. Are you disappointed with its mellowness? Because they did claim it was gutsy.
They did, but I'm not tasting the gutsy.
Well, it's a little gusty.
It's gusty, not gutsy.
Yeah. Third sip.
All right. This is a gusty thumbs up. Got him.
Got him. Bringing it back full circle.
No, but I really do enjoy it. This is what I need after a chaotic morning.
After a vomit-filled
muchas
morning.
Gracias.
Okay.
Or how do you say it in French? I got nothing.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah. Beaucoup, madame.
Okay. See what? This is why I don't tell her anything. I shouldn't have told her last week that we were going to Paris. But I've sent her the names of the main players in this case for today so that she can help us with our pronunciations because you don't want to miss out on that perfection. So are you ready to gust on over to Paris, France?
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
Late 1800s, okay?
Okay.
Good time period. All right, so I sent you the names beforehand. I want you to read name number 1. That is the gentleman at the center of this case. And what is his name, please?
Well, I recently watched Emily in Paris, so this should be a no-brainer. Toussaint-Augustin Gouffé. How's that?
I still have my smoker's cough from my flu, but yeah, I think it's Toussaint-Augustin Gouffé, I believe. Oh. I think we got it. So on July 27th of 1889, Toussaint-Augustin Gouffé did not come down to have breakfast with his 2 daughters who were older, 19 and 20, and he had a third daughter away at boarding school who was 16. His wife had died nearly a decade before, so it was just the 3 of them usually at breakfast. And his cook was the first to notice his absence, and she thought it was really strange because even though Gouffé was out most Friday nights, living it up. He was always home in the morning to have breakfast with the 2 daughters that were at home. And if he wasn't, he sent word. So that morning, no telegram, no messenger, no Gouffé. The cook, Matilda, checked on him in his room, thinking maybe he'd overslept. But he was not in there, and the bed had been untouched.
Uh-oh.
So she's nervous, but she's also, hoping there's a reasonable explanation, and she's hoping she can buy him some time. So she actually messes the bed up as if he'd slept in it in case his daughters were to go in there, because she was afraid he'd be embarrassed because he'd been with a woman and had not come home in time. And so she messed up the bed covers, and then she goes down to breakfast. He still does not show. He does not show up by lunch. So concerned, she walks to Gouffé's in-laws' house and talks to his brother-in-law, Louis Marie Landry, and she explains that he never came home. So the brother-in-law hightails it over to Gouffé's office. He's a bailiff, which is not what we think of a bailiff today. It's closer to a lawyer. It's a legal position that does a lot of different services, one of the big ones being debt collection.
Oh.
Okay.
Baseball
so it's not
bats.
a court bailiff. So Landry gets to the office. Gouffé's not there. His staff is there, but he's not. So he talks to the concierge of the building, and the concierge says, "No, I haven't seen Gouffé today, but there was a man here last night who was coming out of the office, and when I went to talk to them, he kind of scampered off in a hurry."
Sketchy.
So sketchy, but Landry thinks that the concierge he usually delivers bread. So he is not usually the concierge. He was just filling in. So he thinks, what does this guy know? It could have been Gouffé, and he just didn't feel like talking because it was late and he wanted to get home, or he wanted to go out where he was going. I don't know that this guy knows what he's talking about. So he ignores it, but night falls, no Gouffé. So Landry decides that he needs to go to the police, and he reports his brother-in-law is missing. So the police will eventually start to retrace Gouffé's steps. At first, they think he's a 49-year-old man. He knows what he's doing. We'll wait and see if he turns up. But they had no way of knowing that Gouffé had already left Paris. His body stuffed in a trunk.
Ew.
And he had left with a couple. You want to give me their names?
Michel, Eyraud, and Gabrielle Bompard.
Yeah, so Michel, Eyraud, and Gabrielle Bompard. So who is this duo, and why have they killed Gouffé and stuffed his body into a trunk? The couple had met when Gabrielle fled home for Paris in 1888 at the age of 20, at the insistence of her father's mistress to get out of Dodge. She didn't really like her hanging around. She lasted a handful of days before she met Michel, and he was 25 years her senior. Simply put, Michel is a con man.
Oh.
But at first, he appears pretty worldly and intelligent to Gabrielle. He speaks several languages. He traveled all over the world. He showers her with gifts and attention. He had grown up in the south of France from a pretty respectable family, so he'd had a good education. He had also served in the French army, and because of that, had traveled to Mexico and had spent some time in the States. But the real story behind all of this is that he had been fighting in Mexico with the French army, and he had deserted. So he'd had to stay in the States because he could not go back to France without being arrested until a law changed.
Wow.
He also was married, had a daughter, and pretty much stole his wife's dowry and then abandoned them.
That's a nice move.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. And it would come out later that his own family wasn't even a fan. So something happened to him as a teen where he was sent away by his own father to basically stay in a prison for 2 years
didn't do a lot for his development.
Until he turned 18. And then as an adult, he came back and he robbed his own mother on her deathbed at gunpoint, forcing her to hand over the family fortune to him, which she did, and then he promptly ran the business into the ground.
God.
Yeah, so he is...
Wowie.
Yeah, he's upstanding. Now, Gabrielle is unaware of all of this at first, and she learns bits and pieces over time, but she's desperately looking for an older man's approval. It's a tale as old as time. So Gabrielle grew up in a pretty wealthy
daddy issues.
Yeah, in a pretty wealthy family, and her father had his own business, but her mother was in poor health. So her mother had actually given birth to 5 children, but only Gabrielle and her brother survived. And then her mother died when Gabrielle was really young.
Oh, that sucks.
Now, after her mother dies, she's sent to live with her mother's family, her mother's brother, and it seems that he took really excellent care of her, that he treated her like his own daughter. He got her a really good education. He was very kind to her. And then for some reason, she was sent back home to her father when she was 13. It does not appear that her father wanted her around, so I'm not sure why she was sent home. But once she was home, her father had not remarried, but he had a mistress who ran the house, which at that time is not, it's not really looked upon favorably to be living together and be unmarried, right?
Yeah.
Now, the mistress insists that Gabrielle be sent away. She doesn't want her there. She doesn't want to be a stepmother. So only a few days later, she's sent to a convent.
Jeez.
And Gabrielle starts acting out. She's swearing. She's causing scenes. She accuses a head of the church of fondling her, which might have been a play, or maybe that really happened. You know,
well,
I don't know. So she keeps getting kicked out of these schools, and every time she gets kicked out, it's harder and harder for her father to find a school that will take her.
Yeah.
Eventually, she ends up in a reform school. You know, one of those wayward schools for girls.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which is basically girls who have had sex and got pregnant, or I don't know, had sex and were prostitutes. Like, those are like really the only things that they used to describe it. And she's there until she's 18. Now, when she's 18, she returns home, and I think there's still a part of Gabrielle that thinks she will be welcomed with open arms. But her last glimpse of hope is destroyed because she's still not welcome. Her father has not visited her once in all those years she was away. He also did not give any money towards her education, and her uncle was the one who paid for every education that she's received. Even though he had money, his business had gotten more successful throughout the years, and he was spending it on himself and the mistress.
What a dad.
Yeah. So Gabrielle is really short. She's like 4'9". She's not even 5 feet tall.
Oh my God.
And as a child, she's described as plump. It's the word used. But when she returns home, she loses weight and then becomes like really interested and dressing provocatively and going out in the town trying to pick up men as a way probably of acting out because she wants somebody to pay attention to her.
Yeah.
And she starts dating a businessman named Jules, who is actually really into hypnosis. Hypnosis is really cool in these days, and it's a big thing. And Gabrielle, seems to be very susceptible to it. And, you know, some people are better at being hypnotized than others.
Yep.
She's very good at it, apparently. And
it's scary.
It's kind of this fad. Yeah, it's this fad thing that's going on. And you have schools of thought around hypnosis, and it's like a serious science.
Yeah.
So in 1888, Dad's mistress says, "Hey, you're about to get sent to an even worse school than you've ever been to because we can't take you anymore." You know, gives her a heads up, gets on the train with her, and gives her a handful of money and says, "Get out of here." And then just puts her on a train by herself to Paris. So Gabrielle's 20 and on her own, which I know 20, you think, oh, that's not like 20, not today, right?
No.
You're 20 in the 1800s and you've been raised from a wealthy family. I don't know that Gabrielle knows how to really do much of anything.
Right.
So good luck to her. So you can see how Gabrielle and Michel found each other.
Yeah.
Gabrielle was out of money real quick and needed somebody to take care of her and has no idea of how to get a job or really any skills that would help her get one. He parades her around town. He loves showing her off, giving her attention that she's been craving. Makes him, he's dating this older, like, suave man is dating this beautiful young thing, right? But that doesn't last forever. And Michel is said to be abusive and beats Gabrielle. He is also in debt. And yeah, Aqua Tofana. He is also in debt and about to be in big trouble for these debts. So he comes up with a plan and convinces Gabrielle to help him. He has a foolproof plan that will solve all of his problems. Gabrielle will lure a wealthy man to her apartment. They will rob him and then kill him. That's the plan.
I know who it's going to happen to.
Yeah, Gouffé, right? He's already in the trunk. We've already revealed that.
Yep, spoiler.
So Michel and Gabrielle, they set off to London to buy the supplies they need to carry out this mess. They bought a rope, a pulley, a silk sash, and a trunk large enough to fit a grown man's body. Now, Gabrielle was a very good seamstress, actually, so she could have got a job doing that. But she learned how to sew at all the convents that she went to.
Oh, sure.
So Michel has Gabrielle sew a sack that would hold the body and then be able to put in the trunk. The couple rent a room under a fake name. They make sure it's on the first floor of a quiet street. They want it on the first floor so that nobody below will hear a body hit the ground.
Okay. Smart.
Is it? And Gabrielle will lure the man to the room, seduce him. While she's in the middle of doing her thing, she will slip the silk sash around his neck and make a noose. And Michel will be behind the curtain and raise the man up from this noose and strangle him.
I mean, so why Michel, not just, I guess you don't want a lot of blood. Okay, go ahead.
Michel placed a pulley on the crossbeam of the ceiling, and then he arranges the furniture so that you have to sit in this spot, right? There's only one piece of furniture in the room that you could sit on. And next to it is a table that he puts biscuits and cognac on. So he's not taking any chances. If their Mark doesn't want sex, then he's going to want cookies. Like, those are the two things that they're luring him with.
Okay.
Behind this seat is the curtain that's closed, and that's where Michel is hiding out. It's very bloody benders,
This is going to be really traumatic. I mean, also you got to be strong enough to be able to lift him.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be terrible. I'm not looking forward to that.
It does not seem that robbery is the only motive here. This seems like there is some real excitement on Michel's part to being the one hiding behind the curtain carrying this out.
Ugh, it's kind of cruel. Like, maybe just smother him with a pillow instead.
Maybe just rob him. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Just throwing it out there. Yeah. So, of course, they obviously settle on Toussaint-Augustin Gouffé, who's that 49-year-old father of 3 who's widowed. Yeah. So on July 26, 1889, Gouffé goes to Gabrielle's apartment. He had happened to meet Michel on the street earlier that afternoon, and Michel kindly let him know that he was done with Gabrielle. And he was no longer interested in having her be his mistress, and Gouffé could be with her if he wanted now. And Gouffé liked Gabrielle, and that was obvious to Michel. They were exploiting that. And the couple had actually had dinner with him the week before so that Gabrielle could lay down some of the groundwork. Whisper some things into Gouffé's ear, like, oh, I can't stand Michel anymore. We're going to break up, that kind of stuff. So at 8 o'clock, Gouffé goes to the apartment, and he never leaves. After that fateful night, Gabrielle and Michel leave Paris, a large trunk in tow, and they traveled with this trunk. Okay? They're asking hotel workers where they're having to stay to bring it up to the room and back down in the morning, and it's leaking.
Ew. Leaking what? Pee?
Really?
I mean, I can't think what else.
I mean, all the bodily fluids that a corpse would leak as it was decomposing.
Oh, wow. Why?
In the summer
Why? Get rid of it. Put it in the river.
Well, I don't know how long they were expecting to keep the trunk with them, but it got to be pretty burdensome, and it got to be pretty pungent.
No,
Okay?
I refuse. Goodbye.
So they open the trunk on their journey and they throw the sack with the body in it down a bank, and then they smash up the trunk and throw the pieces.
Yeah, we should have done this a while ago, folks.
In a small
Gross.
village named Millery. Now, after that, they continue their journey. They're on the run. Sometimes Gabrielle is dressed as a boy. She cuts her hair, and she looks like a 15-year-old boy easily, and Michel's her father. Sometimes she's still a female, and she just pretends that she's Michel's daughter. They go to Canada. Then they eventually end up in San Francisco. Meanwhile, back in Paris, the police, like I said, they don't take the investigation seriously at first, but once they start to, just a couple days later, Michel and Gabrielle have already taken the trunk.
Ugh.
But Gouffé's wife has been dead for 8 years. It is not a secret that Gouffé is a bit of a ladies' man.
Yeah.
The lead investigator, Garan, interviews 20 women alone that Gouffé slept with for the month of July.
Whoa.
To see if any of them
1 month
were upset with him. Yeah.
Hope he used protection.
And I can't believe he only had 3 daughters, to be honest. And each one of them came like bopping in, being like, nope, I'm innocent. And it was just a parade of ladies.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
But he was a good dad.
Yeah. I mean, I'm honestly just like, how do you find the time?
I mean, 20?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In a month, like your time management skills are what are impressing me here. Because he has a full-time job and he's a dad. I don't understand. Anyway.
Yeah, that's nuts. Nighttime activities.
So the investigator Garan also looks into Landry, the brother-in-law, because as soon as Gouffé disappeared, Landry goes into the office, takes some stuff and runs away.
Yeah.
And so they ask him about it, and what it turned out to be was tawdry letters from various women, as we can now believe, because that was just July, and he didn't want Gouffé's reputation to be at risk or it to come back and affect any of his daughters. So he burned some stuff. Now, Garan really has nothing to go on until later that summer when, in this small village, the summer heat had made the stench of something so unbearable that all the town folk were complaining and they were getting sick. And so they sent one unlucky man down to the river to investigate.
Oh my God. This is my worst nightmare.
You need to find this smell because it's all over town. So he's going along the riverbank.
Draw straws? Like, geez.
I know, right? He finds a sack, and he can tell that is the source of the odor, right? It's disgusting. He opens it.
No.
Cuts it open, and he immediately sees a skull. A skull.
Wait, so is it a skeleton at this point? No, I don't want to know.
And it is a naked corpse that has been tied up into the fetal position. So they take the body, right? They do an autopsy, and it's pretty basic. It's not super sophisticated. And so the details of the body they found do not match Gouffé at all.
What?
The corpse has black hair. He was estimated time of death is before Gouffé went missing, and he's estimated to be much younger than Gouffé's 49 years.
What? Are they doing this multiple times?
The next day, a farmer finds several pieces of wood along the bank, and he thinks, oh, cool, I'll use it for kindling. But as he's collecting it, it smells so terrible that he can't keep it. And then he remembers hearing about a body that was found, so he brings the pieces to the police and says, hey, you might want to look at this.
Smart.
The police have a couple of gentlemen try to put the trunk back together, but it smells so terrible that one of them gets pretty violently ill. And they end up being able to build a replica of this trunk, which is 3 feet by 2 feet wide. And then they stick a man into it to see if a man could fit, and he can. He gets right out. It was just a rehearsal.
See you later, sacrifice.
Grant is talking to informants, and he finds out that Gouffé disappeared, and then pretty quickly after that, Michel also disappeared. Now, Michel matches the description of the person that concierge who was substituting saw at the office that night. And Goran also had found a partial label on the trunk. And so he scours all of the travel records because the partial label had said July 27th, which was when Michel and Gabrielle had departed. And so he goes and he checks all of the travel records for 1888 and 1889 because there's no year.
Oh my God, that would take a
And
long
they
time.
eventually find it for July 27th, 1889, and that it departed Paris and it was 230 pounds. That a trunk was recorded as being, packed into the transportation. So he really thinks that this body has to be Gouffé. But this is like, you're not checking your email and there's not a database. So he has to travel to this small town and the hair doesn't even match and he kind of gets laughed out of this town. Like people aren't treating him well, but he sticks with it. He has a really strong hunch. So he eventually, like I said, goes to the town and he gets there. And luckily, the medical examiner they've buried the body. Unfortunately, they can't get the body back because they have buried it in an unmarked mass grave. So, because he wants to examine the body and have somebody else take a second look,
Why
but it's not available.
Why are they doing mass graves?
Because they don't, Potter's.
This is Canada?
Paris.
We're not Paris. Okay.
Well, like the French countryside. We're outside of the city. So they've buried it with other John Does.
Oh, I see. Got it.
See what I mean? So they don't know where it is. But they have saved a couple of hair samples. So they hand this lead investigator the hair and he looks at it and it is in fact black. But he says, hey, could I wash it? And he washes it and it's just dirty. It's actually brown hair.
Wow.
So they didn't know enough to just wash it from the dirt and the fluids that had seeped into it during the decomp.
Ever again in your life. Wait, but he was thrown into a riverbank, right?
Not in the river, just on the side. He was on the land.
These people are idiots. Put it in the river.
Okay. So once this news spreads, Goran is actually pulled aside by another examiner and he says, I actually know where the body is buried because I was really upset that we couldn't ID it. And so I know exactly where it is buried and I put my hat in the coffin so that we could identify it later if we needed to.
Wow. Promote that guy to detective.
Right? So they go and they exhume the body. And they bring it to an experienced medical examiner. Oh, gosh, I did not send you this name. I have no idea how to say it. Alexander Lacassian, maybe? I don't know. He knows what he's doing, though. First off, he's mad about the autopsy that's been done previously. It was not good. He spends days doing this autopsy. He is able to estimate the height exactly by a new technique where you're able to measure certain bones and be able to predict the height.
Yeah.
Right, which is what they do now. And he's able to exactly give the height, which matches Gouffé exactly. He's able to ID 2 injuries on the corpse, which they call Gouffé's family. And yes, he had those 2 injuries. And he's able to confirm with certainty, yes, his hair is brown. And he's even able to confirm dental work that they can talk to Gouffé's dentist about. So by the end of these few days, this medical examiner says this is without a doubt Gouffé.
But how does he do it without throwing up?
I don't know. He didn't mention it. My guess is he's used to it at this point.
I don't understand. I can't.
So they know where Gouffé is now. Goran takes the trunks. He's got the pieces of the trunk that had been smashed, but he also has the replica.
Yeah.
And they talk about it in the press for days. And then they put it in a window on display and thousands of people line up to see the trunk. What? Now, Goran does this so that he can hopefully get a tip. I mean, this is the equivalent of putting it on the news.
Got it. Yeah, that's true.
Right? Like a picture.
Do they want the hotel people to say, oh, I carried this up and down the stairs?
Well, they don't know about the hotel people, but yeah, they're hoping somebody.
Or something like that.
Yeah, somebody will have noticed it. And they do get several people come forward. So one person says, yeah, that was bought in London at this store.
Oh.
And then another person says that Gabrielle had that trunk. They still don't know where the crime scene is. They now basically they know who did it. They know what happened, but they don't know where it happened. Meanwhile, Michel and Gabrielle are on the run. They meet a rich man, and Michel thinks this will be our next Mark. He's super wealthy. He also seems to be really into Gabrielle.
Cut it out.
He is telling this man that he's a wealthy businessman and Gabrielle is his daughter, and that he's looking to do an investment in a new vineyard in California. And Gabrielle at this point has started to hate Michel. She is not loving anything that has happened to date. She can't stand him and she wants out. She also happens to have an eye for this new rich fella. How would you say his name? Garangr? Garinger?
Garinger, yeah, I guess.
Anyway, that's the name. So she kind of has a crush on this guy, and he seems to like her as well.
Well, you're going to die.
So rich man meets them in San Francisco, and he buys gifts for Gabrielle, and he signs a deal to be an investor in Michel's vineyard, which doesn't even exist. It's not a real thing. So
good investment.
It's not going to go great. Now, Michel tells rich man, I have to leave suddenly, but would you mind escorting my daughter back to France for me? Oh, and if you don't mind, could I also get some of that investment money? Oh, and could I just have a little bit of spending money? My funds are tied up. So rich man gives Michel a bunch of money, and then he takes off with Gabrielle. He's supposed to escort her back to France like a true gentleman, right? Meanwhile, Michel has told Gabrielle, meet me in New York.
That's a long trip.
Yeah, it's going to take a minute. Meet me in New York, and we'll lure this man to his death and rob him after he gives me the investment money.
And keep the trunk for days because we're weird and dumb.
I think they're skipping the trunk this time around.
Okay, good.
But I don't know. I guess I don't know. Then, they won't even be going to France because they're wanted in France.
Yeah.
Now, Gabrielle's alone with rich guy, and she really likes him, and she does not like what has happened previously in her life. And so she tells the rich man of Michel's plan to save him. And so they just don't go to New York. They skip it altogether. So Gabrielle saves this guy's life.
But I still don't think he should trust her.
Well, she just saved him, but okay. Now, Michel is waiting in New York, and Gabrielle doesn't show. He's not happy. He is not happy.
What are you going to do? You don't have a cell phone.
Do you know what he does? It's so weird. He writes the lead investigator, Garan, a letter. Because it's like you can't really catch him, right? Because he's so far away, and it's so. He writes him a letter, and he's like, "Hey, I heard what's been happening, and it was all Gabrielle. She is an evil vixen, and she killed Gouffé."
Wow.
Yeah, he's so mad at her that he writes the lead investigator a letter, which can't be a smart move for himself. Okay, Gabrielle goes back to France.
It's not a good move.
With her new beau. And she tells Garinger everything when they get there. She even tells her real name, and she says, just go out, grab some papers, read all about it, and then we'll talk.
She's going to go to jail.
So he does that. And then the next day, he encourages her to go to the police and explain what happened. And so she does. She walks right up to the police station, and she says, I need to talk to the investigators. And they say, do you have an appointment? And she says, no, but I'm Gabrielle Bompard. And they say, I'm sorry, you need an appointment. And they send her away.
Wow, good job, guys.
So she has
Quality
to go.
Police work.
So the next day she goes back and she does it again. And this time the person immediately recognizes her name and they let her in. She gives her account of what happened that night. From the robbery, they only received 150 francs, a pinky ring, and a watch.
It was worth it.
Michel went to the office to get more money. There was thousands of dollars hidden in a drawer, and he missed it.
Good job.
Mm-hmm. So Gabrielle met Gouffé at the door in a dressing gown, and he sits down on the one seat in the whole place, and she sits on his lap, and she removes the sash from around her waist, which opens her gown. And obviously she's, nothing on underneath. So Gouffé's distracted. She then takes the sash from around her waist and she starts to tie a noose around Gouffé's neck. Now, Gabrielle says she hesitates and is not able to do it not because she can't tie the knot, but because she doesn't want to do it. And Michel, who is behind the curtain, notices her hesitation, jumps out from behind the curtain, forces the sash around Gouffé's neck, and then pulls the pulley. Now, Michel pulls, and the pulley snaps. So Gouffé falls to the ground, and he's still alive, and then Michel jumps on him and strangles him with his hands.
Got it.
Okay,
it was never a great plan. And also, Gabrielle would have never been able to lift him.
She wasn't supposed to. Michel was supposed to.
No, I know, but if he was trying to, pin it on her, it's just not as believable that a death by strangulation would be by her.
Right? So Gabrielle claims that she was hypnotized.
Oh, right.
During this.
Right.
Which is the first time that this has been entered as a defense. And they do experiments and stuff where they hypnotize people and they say, hey, here's poison, pour it into this person's cup. It's not really poison, but to show that, how susceptible and how people could do that. So Gabrielle says she was hypnotized at that point, and she's very susceptible.
People would do it?
Apparently they would, but I mean, how? But do they know that?
Hypnotize a whole secret agents and have an assassins guild?
I don't know. And her new boyfriend is saying that, this might be true because he's also into hypnosis. I'm telling you, everybody's into it. And he had hypnotized her when they were together. And she was incredibly susceptible to it. Now, others think that Gabrielle is just a tiny little liar. And they cannot find Michel anywhere. Gabrielle's kind of loving the attention and is wearing the most fashionable dresses and getting her picture taken in the paper for the paper every day. Boy. She's looked at by 3 psychiatrists, and I cannot wait to run down some of the insights that they had. First, they look at her family history. Okay, that's decent. That's fair. She had an aunt and she had an uncle who were labeled as, quote, crazy. I don't know what that means. Who knows? But okay, looking at family history, that's fair. Gabrielle also had convulsions as a child, so that's a problem, they say, which probably means she had childhood epilepsy, but okay. She also started her period at a young age, which, according to criminologists of the day, meant she was a degenerate and likely to be a prostitute.
I hate people. That's so stupid. That's a stupid, patriarchal thing to try to push down women. Oh my God.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Gabrielle is saying that she was beaten badly by Michel and she was scared of him, which seems to in fact be the truth because there are witnesses who say they saw Michel push her, shove her, be rough with her. She claims that she had no idea that they were going to kill Gouffé. She thought that they bought the trunk for travel and that they were going to just restrain him and rob him.
I don't believe her.
But again, she's too apathetic when she's recounting the story. She's not crying enough.
Warm and a mess.
Yeah, you need to be a total mess. Also,
not do well in these.
Also, this one's important because you're looking at my face right now. She has a large lower jaw, which apparently is a bad sign.
What is happening?
I don't know. But I've got a Buzz Lightyear jaw myself, so watch your back. I have a square jaw, a big jaw.
I've never noticed.
You've never noticed? Have you closed your eyes every time we've talked?
I don't know. That's not a feature I notice about you.
Well, it's prominent, so look out. So the conclusion that these psychologists come to is that she's highly intelligent but morally impaired.
Okay, but this... Okay. This makes me feel like today we're doing something so stupid in psychology. What's it gonna be?
I don't know.
I
don't know. But, I think, I don't know. Anyway, so Michel's still on the run. They finally find him hiding out in Cuba and he's sent back to France. He immediately, guess what, blames it entirely on Gabrielle, says it was her idea, her plan, and that he just did what she said. He was just under her control.
Doesn't seem
Give
likely.
me a break.
Yeah, F that guy.
So Gran recreates the entire crime scene at the same apartment and brings both of them there to see like what happens when they're in the same room because they now hate each other.
Yeah.
It's just the drama, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they have an officer stand in for Gouffé, and they adamantly stick to their stories, which Gabrielle says she started to put the noose around the neck, and then Michel jumped in, and Michel says Gabrielle did it, and he pulled the pulley, but the ME, the medical examiner, says that Gouffé was strangled by somebody's hands. Yeah, not by a rope, by somebody's hands. So the evidence supports Gabrielle's version of the story.
I just don't believe she was hypnotized. That's it.
God, no. No, I think that she knew what was going to happen. She might have even put the noose on, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pulled the pulley and then it broke. And then he used his hands. I think that's probably what happened. She definitely knew something was going on.
Yeah.
So the public kind of seems to side with Michel, and Gabrielle goes into hysterics. Loverboy is exited at this point. He kind of stuck around for a minute, but this is getting messy.
Yeah.
And the trial starts December 16th of 1890, and it only lasts for 5 days. So there's constant bickering back and forth. Gabrielle kind of seems just kind of resigned to the fact that this is it for her, and she even falls asleep at one point during the trial, which I don't know if it's ideal, although it was probably incredibly boring. And again, the medical examiner says that there were fingerprints, like finger marks on Gouffé's neck. And Gabrielle,
they're just ignoring that.
They're just listening to Michel.
Why?
I don't know.
He's a turd monkey.
Yeah. So the jury took 2 hours. Michel, guilty on all counts, no extenuating circumstances. Gabrielle, guilty, all counts, but extenuating circumstances. So that means that Michel was sentenced to death.
Okay.
And Gabrielle was sentenced to 20 years hard labor.
Wow.
Now, Michel seemed to take his death in stride. He didn't really react, and he had like an appetite and everything after he got back. But unfortunately, the meal that he had gave him the runs. So his last meal was unpleasant.
Terrible. How is he put to death?
Guillotine.
I was going to say that. It's so French back in the day.
I mean, it's like the appropriate method at that time.
Wow.
Yeah. So on February 3rd, 1891, he was executed with the guillotine. And Gabrielle sentenced to 20 years, but after 12, she was released.
Huh.
And she really tried to kind of like bring back her case. And she was supposed to, during the case, she was supposed to be hypnotized by like the world famous hypnotist, but he broke a bone. He broke his arm or his leg, and he couldn't make it. And so she went to a famous hypnotist after she was released, and he put her under, not to hypnotize her like to do a chicken dance or something, but to recreate what had happened that night to see if her version of events was the same, which we kind of still do today when you want somebody to try and remember something. And she recounted everything and she was in a deep trance and recounted everything as she had originally told it to investigators, that she started to put the noose on, stopped, and Michel jumped out from behind the counter. And she was frozen and devastated as to what was happening. But they tried to recreate that, and it just didn't play well for the public, because you now have like a woman in her 30s who everybody's forgotten about. She kind of stayed in the papers for about a year. But at this point, everybody's just like, what are you doing? This is weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's over. Stop.
It's over. Like, go find a new life.
Yeah. So she really just kind of faded into the background, and she died December 9th, 1920, and her obituary actually had the headline, "An Unnoticed Departure."
Yikes.
Which is so sad.
That's mean.
So sad. So
who wrote that?
I don't know. Brutal. But man, I think that Gabrielle knew what was going to happen. I think she was involved. But I think in today's world, she would have had the opportunity to bring up the physical abuse.
Oh, yeah.
that was happening to her, because I think that it was, and she also would have had the opportunity to possibly give evidence to get a much easier sentence or even to get immunity.
Gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I guess all she had was that hypnotism theory, and it didn't go great.
No, it's not a good one. It's too squishy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I am
Wow.
actually, I feel like we don't give credit enough. She saved Rich Boy's life when
Yeah.
I could hear us, in other episodes being like, "Why? Like, stop. It's not gonna go well. Stop. Like, save somebody, say something." She actually did. She actually
Yeah,
stopped. She
that's
actually
true.
went into the police on her own. She clearly
Yeah.
is not a threat to the public
No.
at any, like, for the rest of her life. She just was quietly. So I mean, the question comes, did she think it was robbery or did she think it was murder? I'm guessing she knew it was going to be murder.
Yeah, but she didn't. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, he probably coerced her into it. I mean, she still probably had chances to leave, but yeah, like when you're finally in that situation, you're like, oh, shit, I don't want
Yeah.
to be doing this.
Yeah. And, you have, like we say all the time, you have so many moments to stop.
Yeah.
And it's possible that she did choose that moment and then he took over for her.
Yeah. And even if she tried to fight him, he could have killed her.
I think she said she froze.
Yeah.
She said it all happened so quickly and
Yeah,
she
I
just
can't
froze.
imagine. I mean, that's an insane situation to be in.
But the medical examiner supported her version of events, the good one, too. Alexander,
Yeah.
not
Yeah. Yeah.
the other one. He supported her version of events, and I don't know. I mean, it's probably I don't know how much time she should have gotten, so probably the jury got it pretty much right.
Yeah.
She didn't have to serve life in prison, but she did serve 12 years.
Yeah. Because her mistress was right. She was going to go to a worse school.
Yeah, way worse.
Not her
And
mistress, her dad's mistress.
yeah, her dad's mistress. She would have been better off if she'd had her own mistress.
Probably.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And then, yeah, poor Gouffé, man.
F
That
that
is
guy,
just
though.
brutal.
Not
Not
him,
Gouffé.
Michel.
No. Michel, yeah. Ugh. He's so I mean, he
He
robbed his mom on her
sucks.
deathbed
Yeah. He
and took all of
sucks.
the money from I mean,
And
that's
then
just
lost it.
clearly what he does.
Just a useless person.
Like, it was obviously your idea, buddy.
Yeah.
All you
Of
do
course
is
it
take
was.
money from people. Ask your wife.
I just wish they hadn't kept the trunk for so long.
Why would you do that? Isn't that so weird?
It's so weird. It's so weird, and I can't handle it mentally.
I don't understand the logic behind that where you're thinking, yeah, we'll just take it with us. That's a good idea.
No. No.
And Gabrielle, she sewed the sack. And so the prosecution was all over her, like, how did you not know what you were sewing? She's like,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like, if somebody asked me to sew a bag, I wouldn't be like, oh, it's for a body, right? I wouldn't immediately, like, draw that connection. I'd just be like, oh, you need a bag.
I don't know. I think she was in on it by that point.
But they were like, but the bag was so big. She was like, I think she was too,
Like,
but I don't think that's what leads me to
not
believe
gonna
it. It's
fill it
just
with
because,
potatoes.
yeah, just because you're sewing a burlap sack, you're like, oh, you're murdering tomorrow? Is that what you're doing? That's logical.
Ugh, gross.
I know.
It's so gross. It's so gross. I hate
Yeah.
that part the most. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I wish that guy survived.
Yeah. Yeah. And they didn't even get, not that that would make it better, but you guys stink at this. You didn't
Yeah,
literally
you got
get any money.
150 francs.
And then the ring, I think they had to get rid of it because it was so distinctive.
Good job. Good job.
And that's why they had marked him to start, because it was a sapphire diamond ring.
Man.
But it's amazing that the investigator stuck to his instinct and really kept pushing to have that body identified. And you've got
detective.
the other examiner who had a feeling and put his hat in with Gouffé. And then you have Alexander, the really good medical examiner, who was able to find previous injuries that mapped.
They might have not put things together if those people didn't put like an extra effort in.
Yeah, you've got like real instances of people going that extra mile and helping solve this case.
All right. I have 2 things to share.
Oh, go.
Okay. One, instead of murder, consider getting a job. Maybe if you're not a job type person, go for something light at first that feels more fun. Like maybe you could start with bartending if you're good with, what is that? Not cosmetology, that's makeup. What is the drink thing called?
Mixology?
Yeah. Try your hand at that. That could feel like a mix of being at the bar and working. Start with that. But just don't go straight for murder. Second, if you have a gut, that hunch that you feel, go with it and go the extra mile at your job because you could be bringing justice for others.
Yep. Yeah, I'll take that second piece. That first piece is a little bit of, hey, instead of murdering, go for a walk on the beach. Like you've given that advice previously.
No, it's saying find a job that suits you. We don't all have to be in the office.
I know. You could be a really good salesman, Michel. Well, but something.
Something. I believe he could have done something.
Yeah. Come on.
Salesman. Now. I think that's good. Like a used carriage salesman.
You're like, yeah, you just be selling lemons all over Paris. Like, no, those wheels are sturdy. Trust me. And then they'd fall off. Oh, good one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good one. All right. Well, who should listen today?
Oh, man. Who should listen? Let's think. Fathers. I was going to say mistresses, but we don't want mistresses to listen.
Well, they can listen. It could be a cautionary tale.
Yeah, true. Cautionary tale for mistresses. Boyfriends, medical examiners, corpses. No.
If
hotel
the medical
workers.
examiner's listening, it just fits.
Yeah, that's true. It could soak into the body. Ew. And the last one will be detectives.
All right. Cool. Yeah. Well, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram at
Tea Time Crimes.
You can email us at
teatimecrimes@gmail.com. Shoot us a message.
Please do. Rate, review, like, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell everybody on Alana's list and maybe then some.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Oh, God, okay. Au revoir.